Hey, it's Jess again, back with another book review. I read Home Before Dark this time. Pretty good. I have to say, it was better than I thought it was going to be, and it's taken me a little bit longer to come out with a video on this one because I have a lot going on right now. So anyway, this is the first time I chose a horror novel instead of a thriller. I usually choose thrillers. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm gonna start the best that I can remember it. So, let's see. There's this girl, her name is Maggie, and she has had like a book written about her entire childhood. Her and her family used to live in this house that's considered haunted and famous. And so her dad writes this book about the house or whatever and the ghosts that they see there. And they tell Maggie not to return, like, ever. So at the beginning of the book, her dad dies, and so he's like, don't ever go back to the house. And she's like, all right. Well, she finds out they still own it. So she didn't even know that until she was like early 20s, that they still own the home. Her dad and mom aren't together anymore. Her mom kind of says the same thing. Don't go back to the house. Don't go back to the house. It's like not a good place for you there or whatever. So naturally, because this is a horror book, Maggie's like, hey, I'm gonna go back to the house. So she is actually a home renovator now. She owns her own business. And so she ends up thinking like, well, I'm gonna fix it up and sell it because it's probably gonna be worth like a lot more that way. So she goes back alone instead of with her business partner like a normal person would do. So she goes back alone, and she didn't want anyone to find out that she was going back, which is weird because she doesn't live with either her parents anymore. So I don't understand why she didn't just like go when she wanted. But anyway, she decides on like a whim to go visit it at night. I'm like, girlfriend, like I know that you've watched like enough scary movies to be like, no, I'm not gonna go back during the nighttime. That's just silly. Even if you don't believe in ghosts, like it's dark outside. What if you can't find it? What if like there's like squatters living there or something? Like, you don't know. Like, why would you go back at nighttime? I have a problem with that. So anyway, she goes back, and the entire story is written where like it'll be like a few chapters about her at present time, and then a few chapters of the book that her dad has written. So this whole time the dad's talking about how haunted the house is, how when Maggie was little, she used to wake up with these nightmares. Maggie to this day doesn't remember any of the nightmares. She's like, oh, well, you know, I've been told that I had them. And so her dad says that these nightmares are like, she would like wake up in the middle of the night and be like, yeah, Mr. Shadow came to visit me. Okay. Like I have kids, I have 2 kids. And I have to say there is very little in this life scarier than one of your children saying something super spooky that you're like, wow, cool. Oh, I'm the adult and have to pretend that this is just fine, that everything's fine. So she's like talking to her dad about how Mr. Shadow comes and visits her at night or whatever. And like, apparently there's 3 ghosts that visit her. There is Mr. Shadow, the girl with no name, and Miss Pennyface. Yeah, very creative. Maggie's apparently 5 when all of this happens, and I have a 6-year-old, and I promise you, if you started coming up with this stuff, I'd be like, all right, we need to do something about this. So anyway, so she goes back at night to like, and she says it's creepy there or whatever, and she decides instead of sleeping in the master bedroom, because, you know, she's a grown-up now and she could sleep in the master bedroom. She's like, no, I'm just gonna like sleep in my old room where I had all these nightmares about these ghosts and stuff that I can't seem to remember, but like it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna sleep in there. So she goes to sleep in there, and there's this giant armoire that like apparently her dad told her that when she was little, she used to say the people like used to live in there. When she goes back, it's boarded up. And so like her natural instinct is, I don't know, not to go to another room because that's flipping creepy, but to take the boards off of the armoire and then go to sleep for the evening. Like, okay. This girl and I would not be friends. I'm just gonna straight up tell you that. So anyway, so she like goes to sleep and she decides that she's going to spend her time renovating the house to getting it ready for sell, and B, to like kind of go around town and like question everybody, like, were there, parts in the book, were those accurate? Like, what actually happened here? She wants to know, like, because she's angry. She's angry that her entire childhood was like tainted with this, like, she's the girl that came from a spooky house or whatever. So she wants to, find truth or whatever at night, which is weird, but okay. So she's like going around town, and there's this like groundskeeper that like still lives on the property. Well, it's technically at this point it's his grandson or something, and his name's Dane, and he's like super attractive, and he like works on houses and stuff. And she's like, well, I'll just have you work for me. And he's like, all right, I'll just do that. So they hit it off like right off the bat, which is cool. And then she goes around town like finding her, interviewing people to see what's going on. So it kind of flashes back to the story that her dad wrote, and her dad's talking about how like when they were touring this house, there were like creepy portraits and like rickety stairs down to this like, it's like a half basement kitchen or something weird like that. There's like bells on the wall because it used to be like a manor or something. So like all the bells are to like different rooms and stuff. Like, gosh, if I was like touring a house, like, and I saw like a creepy portrait right when you walk in, I'd be like, okay, I have to revisit that. Then you like go down to this half basement kitchen, there's like bells on the wall. I'd be like, yeah, that's not something I would do. And then the chandelier. Oh, there's this thing with the chandelier where it like surges on and then surges off, or like they turned it off for sure and then it's like back on later or something. Yeah, these are all things that like they haven't even bought the house yet. They're just touring it, and they have these like 4 like really creepy things happen while they're touring, and they're like, oh, it's probably fine. Like, okay, obviously y'all don't watch TV and you don't watch scary stuff because you're like that's the part you're yelling at the TV and you're like, get out of the house because it's obviously messed up. Anyway, yeah, they decided to buy it for whatever reason. So there's a groundskeeper that lives like in a house down by the road, and there's like a housekeeper that lives, did I say grounds? A groundskeeper and a housekeeper. So the lady, Elsa, has 2 daughters, Petra and the other girl. And I can't remember the girl's name. Can't remember. Anyway, so Petra's like 16 or something, and the daughter is like roughly the same. The younger one is like roughly the same age as Maggie. So they get along and they play or whatever. And Petra, the older sister, babysits them sometimes. So anyway, so it kind of flashes back and forth, and I do like that where they like kind of like mirror a situation, like, she's in town talking to somebody, and then in the book her dad was in town talking to the same person. That was kind of cool. I liked that part. So turns out Maggie as a grown-up and Dane are in the kitchen one day working on something. There was like an issue with the ceiling in the kitchen for a long time, and I'm trying to remember. So there in the book, like the ceiling falls and there's like snakes that come out, and apparently there was like an infestation of snakes or whatever. So as Dane and Maggie are in the kitchen looking up at this, ceiling, like, what are we going to do about this? It's like obviously a huge repaired patch and it looks kind of unsightly. How are we going to change this or whatever? So as like they're looking at it, Dane's like, well, I'm just gonna like reach up there and like kind of push on it. And she's like I work on houses and like I don't think that's a good idea. Yeah, he decides to do it anyway. So he's like, because like, what else would happen in like a scary book or scary movie? It has to be the thing that you're like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. And then they do it. So, obviously. So he gets up there and he's like feeling around on the ceiling and there's like this soft spot. And he's like, that's weird. There must be some water leakage. So he's like pushing on the soft spot and it like gives away. And he's like, what? And so he's like pushing on it more and the whole thing falls down. And there's this bag that's like disintegrated or whatever. And there's bones that come out of it. Well, of course, they're like freaking out. They go call the cops, blah, 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 blah. Turns out, and I probably should have said this part first, but Petra, now I'm gonna give it away. So Petra ended up going missing like the same night that Maggie and her parents fled the house in the middle of the night because the place was too spooky. So Maggie's gone. She's missing. They can't find her. And all of a sudden these like, other than the ceiling that just like came down and like bones coming out, they're like creepy things that were going on in the house. Like, there's like a record that plays in the middle of the night that, that Sound of Music song, You Were 16 Going on 17, which actually, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of upset about that because I was like, you know what? I really like this musical and I really like this song. If y'all mess this up for me, I'm gonna be super bummed. So, turns out there was like a reason to that because over the years in this house, all the daughters in the house have like mysteriously died at 16 years old. Starting way from like when the original guy owned it. So this is all, she's all finding this stuff out like as the book is progressing. It's like kind of, like I said, it's hard to keep track of because it's all like flitting around and twisting up or whatever. So they end up doing like the tests on the body or whatever, and it's Petra, which sucks. So Petro'S dead. Apparently she's been in the ceiling / the floor from upstairs for 20 years or whatever it was that Maggie was out of the house. So now there's a dead person, in her house, and she is starting to have these creepy things happen to her in the house that like happened in the book, like the noises in the middle of the night, the record is starting to come on, like all of this stuff. Well, she ends up finding out that Elsa, the old housekeeper, is like mentally ill at this point. Her younger daughter, it's Hannah, that's what it is. So Petra's younger sister is Hannah. Hannah is like livid about this whole thing. She's like upset that her sister was missing. She thinks the family had something to do with it. She now has like all of these medical bills to pay for her mom and no way to pay them. So she's been sneaking into the house and stealing stuff and selling them online to pay for her mom's medical bills. So she's also been still stealing things while Maggie's been there, and she knew Maggie was there. She like knew, but she like went in and got like stole stuff anyway. So she like went and got stuff out of there, and so to distract Maggie from like Hannah just stealing stuff, she would like play these like ghostly tricks on her or whatever. She was the one who started the music. She was the one who did whatever. So anyway, all that aside, they find out it's Petra. Hannah's upset. Obviously Maggie's like, gosh, I'm so sorry. And Hannah's kind of pissed because toward the end, right before Maggie and her parents moved out, they had a sleepover. And so like her parents were like gonna go on a date or whatever, so they had Petra come and babysit. Thought I just heard a door open upstairs. Anyway, so The kids are supposed to be sleeping, but you know, life. So anyway, all that aside, Hannah is upset. I lost my train of thought. Oh, she was the one setting off all the like distractions and whatever, playing the pranks and stuff. So anyway, so in the book, it talks in her dad's book, which you read in here, he talks about how like he ends up finding out like he ends up trying to like hurt Maggie or something. Oh, the sleepover is what I was talking about, but let's go back. So he ends up, the night that everybody left, what ended up happening is in the book he says in the book that he noticed in the photo, like he went up to the office, or he like tried to hurt Maggie in her sleep on accident or something. Maggie's mom was really upset, obviously, and was like, well, I'm getting out of here with Maggie. So they left. So he's sitting in the study, like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Starts like realizing that the guy who lived there before him, Chris, I think his name was Chris. Chris was the one who like, he also killed his daughter when she turned 16 and like then killed himself. So he decided, he starts like taking photos of himself, right? Like just like Chris did or whatever. And he starts realizing that there's like somebody standing behind him. Turns out it's like Miss Pennyface or something. And Miss Pennyface is like trying to kill him. And so he's freaking out. Maggie and her mom come back and the mom's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, we gotta get out of here. And it's this whole thing. To be honest, there's like a lot of like similarities between the premise of that and then The Haunting of Hill House, if you've ever seen that, you know, with the like the book written about the house and the house is haunted and we gotta leave in the middle of the night. There's like a groundskeeper that's like spooked out by the place. Like there's just like a lot of like similar things. So they end up leaving in the middle of the night because there's this huge thing. They're like, think they're gonna get killed by Miss Pennyface, who her dad says is actually Indigo. I didn't tell you about Indigo. So I'm telling you, this book, like it flips back and forth. While you're reading it, it makes a lot of sense, but like it's hard to describe. So Indigo was the original owner's daughter. So he lived there, the dad. The manor is called Bainbury Manor. So he lived there with his daughter. This is kind of like a side story, but his daughter fell in love with a guy who did the paintings, the creepy ones that have been hanging, that I was talking about earlier. She ended up falling in love with him, wanted to run away. The dad found out, ended up like killing her or something. And so she was, I don't really remember, I guess, but like, I guess Indigo was like pissed. So you know, cause she got killed by her dad because she was going to run away and get married. So her dad is like, so basically, that Maggie's dad in the book says that Indigo was the one who was trying to kill him, and it was made all the fathers in the house kill their 16-year-old daughters or whatever over the years. So this is where it gets crazy. Okay. Like, I'm going to try to contain myself. By the way, this book was spooky enough that like there were times I was reading at night and I had to put it down, like, and watch something pleasant before I went to bed. Like, if you want a good, like, you know, if you're into that sort of thing, check it out. Now that I'm telling you about everything that happens in the book, so I guess that's pointless. But anyway, so this is where it gets crazy. The last family, gotta follow this. The last family that lived in the house beforehand, the dad that killed his daughter, yeah, and himself, left this lady, Marta. So Marta is the town baker. She like owns a bakery. said that so weird. She owns a bakery, and people feel sorry for her because of her sad story. So Maggie ends up talking to Marta, and Marta's like, filling her in on all of this stuff. And Marta and Maggie like kind of like hit it off and become good friends. So turns out Maggie finds out from her mother that the night that they fled was the night of that Petra was watching Hannah and Maggie. So the parents came home and found they found Maggie at the top of the stairs, and she had just pushed Petra down the stairs. Her and Petra had kind of like, or her and Hannah had kind of got into it before, Maggie and Hannah. So when they looked up and saw their daughter at the top of the stairs and had just like killed Petra, they wanted to protect her. And to be honest with you, I'm a parent. I can't say exactly what I would do in that scenario. I would like to think that I would, encourage my child to do the right thing and, take the consequence for something huge like that, obviously. But like, you don't know. You don't know until you're in that situation, like how you're going to be, like when, hopefully that never happens, like that your kid killed a babysitter. But like, obviously they fled. They wanted to protect their daughter. So what they ended up doing, they ended up saying like, we got to move out of this house. They buried her in the floorboards, right? Which is why she fell through the kitchen 20 years later, but okay. Like it stays up there until somebody pushes on it. Like, I don't know, whatever, not important. So all that aside, like Maggie just found out that she killed her babysitter, which is why her family fled that night. They buried Petra in the floor. Hid? Concealed? Whatever. They put Petra in the floor. They put her in the floor, and then they decided to flee. And so the parents are talking like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We have to protect our daughter. So that's when the dad decides, I'm going to write a book about the place and make it seem so scary that like nobody will ever like want to be around that. So the whole book is a lie. I mean, like about the like ghosts and stuff, and obviously the reason they left the house, which is their daughter killed somebody, obviously like they didn't write about that. So Maggie finds out she kills Petra. She's upset. She doesn't know what to do. She ends up talking to Marta. Marta's the one, the widow of the last family that lived there. Marta's like, yo, like, I think we could get along about this, like, I'm so sorry that Petra was found. That's so upsetting and whatever. And at one point, like, Maggie thinks it's Dane because he, like, apparently knew Petra at that age, and they, like, kind of thing or whatever. So anyway, it keeps like you keep thinking it's other people, but anyway, so Marta's like, look, I think that we can like get along or whatever. And so she ends up like, Marta ends up feeding her a piece of pie because she's like, look, I know you're really upset. You killed her. It's not your fault. Like, we'll figure it out. Like, it'll be all right. She's like trying to help her. So I can't remember if they did this in the house, maybe. So she's like putting her to bed or something. And then all of a sudden, like Maggie realizes that the pie that Marta made for her and gave her is baneberry pie. Apparently, baneberries, I'm not really sure if they're real or not. Please like comment below if they are. Apparently baneberries are like crazy, crazy poisonous to humans. So obviously like Maggie's freaking out. She's trying to get out of the bed. She feels weird. She's like trying to like crawl down the hall and get help. Marta's like chasing her down like, no, you're not gonna leave. Like, and which is like really sketchy because like, you know, turns out, I guess, what ended up happening was the armoire in Maggie's bedroom is actually like a passageway to outside. So Marta had been coming into Baneberry Manor for years to like, I don't know, like, it was really creepy. She used to like look at Maggie sleeping because her daughter, you know, she like missed her daughter. So she used to come in, sneak in there and like look at her sleeping or something. It was freaky. Like, okay. So Marta wears glasses. So I don't know if I can get my glasses to do this, but like as she would like come out of there, right there, as she would come out of the armoire, her glasses like glinted the moonlight. And so Maggie, that's why Maggie called her Miss Pennyface. So Miss Pennyface was actually Marta this whole time. So I was like, what? That makes sense. So this is the other strange thing is I can't, to be honest with you, I need to go look back and find out the girl with no name because that, I don't remember what happened in that part. But, so it turns out what ended up happening was Marta had like snuck in. This is the night of the sleepover, the night the family left. Marta came into the armoire to like look at her sleeping or whatever. Well, she wasn't alone because she was having a sleepover. So Petra saw her and was like, what the heck? Like, what are you doing here? And so Marta and Petra like got into like a physical altercation and it somehow made its way down the hallway to the stairs because, you know, that's another like, you know, thing in scary movies or whatever. So Petra's at the top of the stairs. Marta's like trying to grab her like, please don't tell anyone, you know, I'm like not doing anything wrong or whatever. Well, Petra's like, oh no, like this is going down. I'm going to tell on you, blah, blah, blah. So Marta like pushes Petra down the stairs. Well, Maggie heard something going on, ran out there, standing at the top of the stairs, seeing Petra on the ground. Her parents come in, think it's Maggie. So all along, it wasn't even Maggie who killed Petra. It was Marta. And Marta was Miss Pennyface. And then it goes to like explain how like Maggie, it has like crawled, like Maggie has like crawled to the top of the stairs. This is, you know, present time or whatever. She's crawled to the top of the stairs and she gets to the top and like she's like trying to get down to go get help or whatever. And Marta's at the top and like Marta's about to like grab like Maggie or something. And all of a sudden this shadowy figure like comes out of nowhere and like shoves Marta down the stairs. And like all Maggie can see in her like Baneberry wooziness is that she like looks up and at first she sees Petra and she's like, oh my gosh, like Petra's ghost or whatever. Turns out it was Petra's mom, Elsa, the one who has like the mental like issues because she's like older and kind of like, you know, she's like losing her mind. So she's been sneaking into the manor as well for years, like trying to find her daughter Petra. So turns out all along, Elsa was actually Mr. Shadow. Marta was Miss Pennyface and killed Petra. And then the parents buried the body because they thought it was Maggie. Oh, I really liked that. It was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It gave me several good scares. And like right at the beginning when I was like reading about, you know, Miss Pennyface and Mr. Shadow and the girl with no name, which now it's going to bug me. I'm going to have to look that up later. Anyway, like I thoroughly had to put it down a few times because I was like freaked out. It was a good one. I really enjoyed it. I see that I spoke another half hour about this book, but it was good. I really liked it. I really liked it. I would recommend reading it. I would say that, but then, you know, I just told you everything that happened, so it is what it is. The next book that I'm going to try, I've already started it, but I need to try to finish it, is this book called The Frame Up. I actually found this one. It was a good find. So I'm kind of excited to read this one. So I'll do another review on this one when I am done. Thanks for stopping by and listening to me chat a half hour about the book I just read. So have a great night, and talk to you next time. I just bumped my glasses because I'm cool like that.